to present and to welcome our digital faculty consultant for operations management, Tracy Lee from Boise State University. The next session is hopefully very relevant to many of you who have been or will be teaching OM or supply chain online, and the recent new normal need for online education because of COVID-19 calls for resources that provide a way to keep students interested, engaged, accountable, and dare I say honest. Tracy will present the tools she uses for success online, and she'll be presenting McGraw-Hill Connect course content for operations management and explore tools like adaptive reading in Smartbook, algorithmic exercises, Excel, guided examples, OM in the news, all kinds of good stuff. So with that said, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and I'm going to give the controls over to Tracy Lee and let her take it away.
Yes, yes. Now I have all the control.
Power.
All right, so let's see if I can make this transition happen. Okay, sharing content. Tell me what I'm sharing. Am I sharing?
Is there any way, yeah, we see two screens. Is there any way to just show this as one PowerPoint?
That would
then the
be
next slide?
super great if I could do what I've only used Zoom for this. So how do I do
So when
that?
you go to
Any
share your
idea?
screen, it should be the top left screen.
Do you,
when
have
you
two do you have two monitors?
Yeah, that's what I
You
need
just
to
need to
do.
swap.
There we go. There we go.
Yeah.
Is that better?
Yep.
All right. Okay.
Yep.
So even though it's like lots of text on slide, I'm actually not talking that much. And if there are any questions at any point, just, put them in chat and Eric or Harper will let me know. So I'm going to be talking about ways that online learners engage with my class, how I use digital to make that happen, and what have I found to be the best practices to help students to be successful. Because at the end of the day, right, we would like to have our students be successful, have them feel that they're learning something relevant, and if you have a supply chain major or an operations major, hopefully recruit the right people into that program. The first thing that I'll talk about is just the overview. We moved to Canvas this semester from Blackboard, and so that has been a whole big learning curve. But the important thing is that it like Blackboard offers us a single sign-on environment so that we are able to put together what looks like a cohesive picture for students and make full use of students go to one place and access everything. So I would say that's my umbrella, is the learning management system that we use. It's my connective tissue that holds everything together. And throughout this, I'm also sharing what percentage of the grade I allocate to various different activities, because I've been asked that so many times. And because I think something that has been amazing to me is no matter how small a percentage I allocate to some of these activities, students do them and find them to be powerful and helpful. And so that was just something I wanted to remember to point out. So I put percentages on here. So in my Canvas course, my class is discussions for my supply chain students. And this is an introductory principles of supply chain management class that I'm talking about. I teach it asynchronous online. We have other faculty who teach face-to-face and others who have more of a hybrid model. So we have all different modalities. Our school made the decision, I say our school, our department, our supply chain faculty made the decision 3 years ago that we wanted to have more consistency across all of our different sections for what we were covering and our policies, because students would section hop trying to find what they perceived to be their best, easiest way through. And so we have exams are 2/3 of the grade at a minimum. We have we all cover the same topics, even though we cover them in our own way. and we all have a minimum of 2 tests, and the final has to be cumulative. So, those are just like a minimum bar that we set. And so I choose to have as much as possible in the way of formative assessments, where exams become my only summative assessment. And so, for example, the discussion boards are 8% of the class, and I'm going to talk just a little bit about a discussion board activity that I use as an example of how I put this into the students' lived experience. Exams, as I said, are 2/3 of the grade. Those are given through Canvas using an online proctoring service. And then in Canvas, I have links to everything else that is part of the class Connect, for my homework assignments, for Smartbook assignments, for review, for the practice operation simulation, and then Panopto, where I have my lecture videos hosted that have embedded quiz questions. And so Connect is another part of my digital platform ecosystem that is the tools that I use inside Connect, giving my students the ability to practice, to see explanations right away in the moment when they have questions about it, where they can look at video tips when they're working on problems, if they need additional support on how to solve a problem. And that, that whole idea of instant feedback is very powerful, and it's why I've used Connect in all its various incarnations since 2009, when it was, literally the textbook problems was all we had, and it's just grown and developed into a really robust, very helpful platform. And so inside Connect, as I mentioned, I use Smartbook for 5% of the grade, homework for 10%. I've this semester added review quizzes, which are worth no points, but students have already figured out after just one test that they should do them. And practice operation simulations for 5%. And then again, another part of the digital ecosystem is the Panopto lecture videos, where I have recorded 10-minute videos, or I should say, research shows that the best length for a video is 6 minutes or less, but I cannot figure out how to make that work on some of the stuff I cover. So I have 10 minutes as my max limit on a lecture video, and every couple of minutes, the video pauses and asks them a quiz question to assess their understanding, gives them feedback on that question, and then it breaks up the video. So some of them vary from, they're 5 to 10 minutes long. So one chapter might have anywhere from 1 to 9 videos. Just depends on what the topic is. And then other resources that I use as part of my digital platform ecosystem, for example, ominthenews.com, which is where you can find blog posts about operations management in the news. I mean, the news is full of supply chain. So it's not like you have to search very hard to find that, but these are curated posts that include discussion questions and also at least one related YouTube video in it, and is a summary of the article along with the tags for what topics that article is about, and is also cross-linked to all the McGraw-Hill's operations textbooks, the relevant chapters. So full disclosure, I'm the editor for the blog. It would be crazy if I didn't think it was a great resource. And I've shared many articles with my students from our faculty bloggers who come up with amazing discussion questions. So that's my digital platform ecosystem, the things that I use consistently. Are there any questions related to this before I move on to just talk a little bit about adaptive reading? And just so you know, we will actually take a look at my Connect course, and look at the stuff that's in the Connect course. I just wanted to kind of give an overview of what I'm using, and then we'll hop over there.
Tracy, I was just going to ask, you try to update that OM in the news pretty regularly, right? Is there a specific frequency that you shoot for?
So you can subscribe 2 different ways. You can subscribe to our newsletter, which is, this is where we provide everything that we have posted since the last newsletter. And then we also have, you can subscribe to posts every time a post goes live. The goal is that the newsletter would go out once a week and that you would see anywhere from 1 to 5 posts that happened in the previous week. So during the pandemic, it hasn't always been as regular as we would like because we all have gotten hit with more work and we're just humans working on the blog. But yeah.
Tracy, I just got a great comment. It is great indeed. The OM in the news. I always think, who can beat this with exclamation point, exclamation point, exclamation point.
Ah, great. I'm glad it's useful. Excellent. Are there any questions before I move on that I need to address? Nope. Okay. Then let's take a look. Again, this is just a short little video. Okay, whoops, went the wrong direction. Okay, so adaptive reading, in particular, adaptive reading. I use Smartbook because it works, and it works on so many levels. 95 to 99% of my students complete every Smartbook assignment, and understand I build in buffer. They could skip 1 or 2 of the Smartbooks, and I don't even test on Smartbook. I tell them explicitly, I will not use questions from Smartbook in the tests. And I still have generally a 99% completion rate on every assignment for Smartbook. And the only explanation that I've heard for this consistently is because it's no-brainer. You can get all the points just for trying long enough. And so students perceive it as absolutely a no-brainer. Many students have told me that they've never read a textbook before they use Smartbook. So Smartbook is a highlighted interactive version of the textbook. And you're served up questions about those highlighted portions. And then you answer the questions to prove mastery. And it doesn't matter how many you get wrong, as long as you get enough right. So this gives my students a big picture view of the chapter. When I'm teaching face-to-face or synchronously, right, then we cover, the Smartbook is due before we cover the chapter, because then I know that people are walking in with some level of familiarity. I used to get such blank looks from students, like they had zero. I mean, I could say, read the chapter. They didn't do it, and they would have zero familiarity with the content, which really limits what you can do in class if nobody knows anything about the topic. And in the online asynchronous, I assign it to be due concurrently with the lecture videos. So, Smartbook and lecture videos would be due on the same day, because I have things due 3 days a week. I love the new 2.0 platform. I only just rolled to the 14th edition of Stevenson this semester. I knew how great the platform was. I knew how great the changes were in 2.0, but because of the pandemic, I just couldn't, on top of everything else, roll to a new edition. And this semester we did. I love how much more granularity we have in assigning chunks within a chapter instead of having to assign a big swath of the chapter. If you're teaching forecasting, you're probably not teaching the entire forecasting chapter, but I couldn't not assign parts of the chapter I wasn't covering before, and now I can assign the specific pieces. So from a teaching perspective, it allows me to not give false signals to students about what I expect them to know, right? Okay, so that's what I'll say about adaptive reading, and I'll show you Smartbook. And the next thing, I went too far. And the last thing is practice operations. So Smartbook is 5% of the class, and practice operations simulation is 5% of the class. And both of these get rave reviews from students. So practice operations is so valuable as a learning experience for students because they see the class as just a disconnected set of topics as we move through, even if I spend time saying, how does this fit into what we've already covered, right? That's the Charlie Brown teacher. Sometimes I feel like, nah. when they play the simulation, it's going to pull together multiple topics into the simulation. But the only reason they know that is because I always have a reflection piece. So it's not enough for them to just play. I always have them reflect on the experience and tie it back to topics in the course. And this comes up as a positive of the class and has gotten emails from students that said, I just think I want to be a supply chain major. This semester, I'm putting it at the last week or the next to the last week and having it be practice OM week. Because the one thing that was challenging is you play it and then a few weeks later you play the next module and they've forgotten how it works. And I don't know about you, but I have some really competitive students in the class, and they consider it a personal failing if they don't get the highest credibility score that they can get, or they don't make as much money as they can get. So I thought this would be just kind of fun and a way to get a break from what they would have perceived as routine by that point of Smartbook, lecture videos, homework assignments, Smartbook lecture, Arguably, this is probably the biggest impact event, which has also shaped how I approach discussion boards because of their response to practice operations. So this is just one of the reflections from last semester, and I share it just because of the wonderful meme that she came up with from, this is Sparta, right? She said, my reaction every time a new contract came in to the game, that is the contract, right? And this is a student who, this was maybe at the halfway point of the semester, and this is such a sophisticated reflection that's very different from how their reflections looked the first module in the third week. And just the way that she's connecting how my production floor experienced the bottleneck effect if some machines weren't as efficient as others, my strategy in positioning my priority products, and how shipping weight and time impacted cost. This is pretty good stuff for a principles class for a student to understand, but they understand it because they're given the power to make decisions. And I think that has been something that has been such a powerful learning for me, is giving students choice and letting them control the direction is actually safe to do because they will learn so much more. Okay, so that is the last of my prepared slides before we hop over to look at my Connect course or my Canvas course or whatever we would want to look at. Do we have any questions before I move over, or anything people would like me to particularly share?
I'm not seeing any questions on my end.
Okay, let me find my Connect course. All right, I guess I haven't shared this screen, so you guys can't see it yet. Let me go into my Connect course and then share it. Okay, figure out how to share. Sharing. How do I share my, let's see.
Something's moving.
I see what I did. I shared a particular application instead of sharing my screen. What a rookie mistake. Okay. So am I sharing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Connect now.
All right. I got to see how to move that out of the way. Come on, move out of the way. All right, here we go. So this is my Connect course this semester. And one of the things I really appreciate is the at a glance analytics that I can get inside the platform. It's on my front page. So every time I log in to my Connect course, I always just automatically go and look and see. Down in the bottom right section, performance, is everything green? Because if it's not green, we have a problem. And rarely does anything go astray from being green. If it does, it's usually not unassigned. Like, for example, this item here, I had a mistake and I had to reassign it. So like one person got it done before I had to reassign it. Sometimes you just make those mistakes. And so sometimes it's just a matter of like, I've got an article that I added. It's not assigned, but some students are reading it anyway because they saw it. They saw that there was a link to an article. Okay. So I have my Connect course set up in modules, and they get a test at the end of each module. And so I'm going to go ahead and click to unpack it. Let's unpack the module that we just finished. This is the one we just, come on, expand. There we go. So the red marks mean that this is deployed to Canvas. So for the student inside Canvas, they would just click the link to go to this assignment. And you can see that I have a Smartbook for a chapter and then a homework for a chapter, a Smartbook for a chapter. And then I only do homework assignments when there are quantitative problems because I want them to practice with algorithmic problems. My lecture videos already have quiz questions built in. They already have learning objectives that tell students what they need to know. I want them to practice the quantitative problems a lot. So I assign homework assignments and find all the examples that I might kind of test on. So chapter 5, this strategic capacity planning chapter, I have a homework assignment there. And then I gave them a break from Smartbook on chapter 15, and just because this is a mammoth homework assignment. And then here's that review quiz. It's not worth points, and I didn't deploy it to Canvas. And, you know, it has all the test bank questions and algorithmic problems I could find that I hadn't already assigned to practice with. Okay, let's take a look at a Smartbook assignment. Setting one up. Okay, so I'm going to actually just pretend to add an assignment. And because I wanted to show you the level of granularity you can have, I just think this is such a strength. So so clicking add assignment, going to Smartbook 2.0, and then choosing what assignment you want. So it's a new assignment here. And I believe you can add multiple chapters to one assignment now. So if you're covering location at the same time as you're covering logistics, you can add, in the Stevenson, of course, you could add chapter 8 on location analysis and also chapter 15 for supply chain and pick the pieces that you want. But, you know, speaking of chapter 8, let's take a look at, or actually chapter 3, forecasting, because that's one where, you know, it's a huge chapter. So let's click continue. And then what you see is if I assigned everything in the whole chapter and I didn't minimize how many concepts students have to prove mastery of, the predicted time for them to get through the assignment is an hour to an hour and a half. And I usually keep mine, I mean, just rule of thumb for me, I usually try to keep mine at around 35 minutes as an average assignment time because I'm not going to test on it. So I just want them to have an overview of the chapter. Okay. And here's what I mean about granularity. All of these arrows you can click and open up, and some of them you can open still further and unpack still further to be able to only assign the parts of the chapter that you want to. What's even cooler to me, these are, so for example, here's one. You can see a sample question so you can get an idea of what's being covered in that section. Because you can see, I mean, unless you have the physical book open right next to you, it's kind of hard to know for sure what's the scope of that piece that's being covered. So you can preview a sample question and oh, do I want to assign executive opinion? Do I want to assign Salesforce opinion? And yeah, just look, I mean, look at this richness. Sorry, I get excited about it because that was one thing that was challenging in the original Smartbook, simply was not being able to exclude some parts which were beyond what I was covering in a principles class. And sometimes I made the decision not to assign Smartbook, and now I have so much more power. So that would be how we would assign this on our end once you've made the decision. So let's say that I'm not going to assign these pieces. And now I click, and then over on the slider, I can also choose how much time I want them to spend. That's going to choose how much highlighting happens and how many questions they have to answer. Then I click continue, and then I can name the assignment whatever I want, chapter 3, Smartbook, whatever, right? The due date, and I don't want to freak my students out, so I'll have to. And you can assign any points from 0 to 1,000. That's also really powerful. If you don't actually want to have points associated with reading the book, you can set 0 points. Or if you're using it for extra credit, you can set 0 points and then count how many they completed, right? I mean, you've got lots of power here. So, mine are 3. And from here, I can choose to deploy it or not to deploy it to my learning management system and then click assign. So now that's popped in, and then I can move it to wherever I need it to go. Is it worth showing from the student end what Smartbook looks like? Do you want me to do that, Harper or Eric? Would you like me to, or?
I think one quick question to walk through would be good, just to see that real quick. And
Okay.
as you're bringing that up, I'll just mention most students, right, are accessing Smartbook and their ebook through the Read Anywhere app. I'll put the link into chat. So there's a free app that your students can download, and that mobile access is super important to allowing all students have access to this content. So
Right.
really good stuff there.
One of our customers is asking to show the student view, and
Absolutely.
one said, I had no idea about this new feature in the Smartbook. Very helpful. Thanks for sharing.
Good.
So just show
Sure.
from the student view would be great.
Okay, so from inside my Connect course, I can click on the student view button here in the upper right. And then, as you can see, it's organized for them in the modules that I set up. The back end, well, this would, I guess, be the front end. It's our back end, their front end. For students, it looks quite different. Since I'm here, I'll show this. I think these are called a hamburger. When you open it out, students are able to actually access their own analytics. We can see analytics for the class and the individual students, and students can see their own analytics and kind of see how Connect is evaluating them on how well they're doing. Again, though, if students are using single sign-on or the mobile app, they wouldn't necessarily come here. And so they might not see the richness of this. So if you think it would be important for your students to check their own analytics, then you might show them this somehow, right? I mean, show them screenshots or recommend they go here. So if I'm a student and I'm actually here inside Connect, then I would just go to wherever the assignment is in the module and then click. So this chapter 13 one for Smartbook, and then click begin. The first time they use it, they're going to have they're guided through, like, what are you supposed to do? So they're given their goals, or they're given their estimated amount of time. What's the due date? What's the estimated time it's going to take you to get through this? And what content are you going to have to show mastery of? In this case, 10 concepts. And then they're given the choice to start reading or start answering questions. Now this is, I am quite sure, in response to the fact that most students would always start answering questions in the original Smartbook or the Smartbook 1.0. And we know, I mean, how are you going to answer the question if you've not read it? I mean, the questions are from the book, but sometimes you have to learn that the hard way. So let's go ahead, though, and click on Start Reading. And then you are to read the highlighted part of the textbook. And then click to go to the next, and it shows you the highlighted part of the textbook. So you can see it's not all highlighted. It just looked like it at first. And then we move through, and so these are the pieces that I've indicated that they should read, and when they're ready, they can click to go to questions. And then they get tips on how are you supposed to prove mastery, right? So we start here with a fill in the blank question. That's a tough one. If I get it wrong, I'll probably get served a multiple choice next. So it's going to gauge how good I am, right? Demand for finished goods is considered independent demand. The demand for components and raw materials derived from this is known as dependent demand. I mean, hopefully I'll get this right and not misspell anything. And then I have to rate my confidence in order to get the score. So let's say that I'm pretty sure I've got high confidence in this, and it says I'm correct. If I got it wrong, I get some feedback. And then I might see this question again later, but I'm going to move on to the next concept. I can also read about it. And the thing about Smartbook 1.0, I'm not dissing it because it was great, is that if you clicked read about the concept, it would actually take you to not just the page, but the paragraph where the answer was. Smartbook 2.0 will take you to the section that contains the answer. And so then it's the student's job to scavenger hunt to find the information they need to answer that question. Moving on to the next question. And up here at the top, I don't know how good the resolution is for what you're seeing from me, but there are bars up here at the top. So for video gamers, right, this is like your health bar or something. You have to fill it up to the top to be done. And so I got part of one bar filled by answering that question correctly. So here's a select all that apply. Which of the following are key questions MRP is designed to answer? What's needed? How much is needed? When is it needed? Let me do it wrong. Okay, so that we see. All right, so let's say I'm medium sure, and it says where is it needed is incorrect. And then it tells me here the correct answer, right? So again, I might see this same question or a different question later that covers the same concept. And I didn't get any progress, and I move on to my next question, which is not the same. It's not going to serve me a question then. It's going to move on to another concept. So this is using, I think this is spaced repetition. No, this is interleaving. So the concept of interleaving of let's ask you questions about different concepts with each question and then circle back when we've gone all the way through all of the assigned concepts. So that's what we would do here. Okay, sorry if you're hearing my phone. I have it set to do not disturb and it's buzzing. So that's Smartbook. They read, they answer questions, and the questions will gauge based on how well they're doing. I'm going to go ahead and exit the assignment. And are there any questions about Smartbook before we take a look at algorithmic problems in Connect?
Just awesome, wonderful. This is great.
Okay, excellent.
That's not really a question, though.
No. So,
well, Tracy, if I could add one thing that I know was a super positive feedback that we generally get with that is improvement on the second edition, Smartbook 2.0. Right, if students get more than 2 questions wrong, it gives them a timeout and forces them to read. So we know we had some feedback that some students may just be clicking through, not paying much attention.
Right.
And so there's really been some positive ways to help reinforce active learning and more proper learning.
Right. To help them help themselves.
Exactly.
And not self-sabotage. Right. Absolutely. I mean, I think that there's benefit, period, in students just having to answer a bunch of questions because, you don't get to re-answer it right away no matter what. But in 2.0, there is more of an emphasis on, I guess maybe we would say scaffolding, right? You can't just keep answering questions wrong. Eventually, we're going to say, look, it's clear that you don't know this. If you learn it, you'll get through this faster. So in terms of the homework assignments, as I mentioned, let's see. I choose everywhere possible to use algorithmic questions, and nobody started this yet, so I should have. Okay. I create my own questions sometimes in Connect if, we all teach our own way and we're all snowflakes and special. So, if I don't feel like I want to use this question on the test instead of assigning it as homework, I might take that question, make a copy of it, and then change the name in the scenario so it doesn't look at first like it was the same one. So let me take a look maybe at let's look at chapter 8, location. Okay. And here we have, you can see that this is the actual live assignment in the class, and they're only worth 6 points. The assignment's 10% of their grade is from homework, and they have 10 assignments, so each one is 1% of the grade, right? And I try to always use algorithmic questions, as you can see with this little A. And what that means is, so we'll open this one. Up at the top here, it says see another version. And if I click it, the numbers will change. That's what it means by algorithmic. So then two students sitting next to each other working on the same homework assignment will see different numbers. And this is pretty powerful because it cuts down on the pure cheating of what did you get for A? Let me put that number in. Now they're both working to understand how to solve the problem. And learning together is pretty powerful. So it's very rare for two students to have the same numbers. Also, once they submit the assignment, they're able to see the explanation of how to solve it. And maybe if I increase this, if I zoomed in a bit, it's easier to see this. The explanations are typically pretty thorough in showing how to get the numbers to get the final answers. Also, on this question, you can see that there's a hint. When it's looked at in the student side, the hint is up here on the left side of the screen. So it's right next to the problem they're working on. For faculty looking at it, the hint is down at the bottom. And this hint is a video walkthrough of the same problem with different numbers and someone showing how to solve it in Excel. I mean, they're showing how to solve it in Excel, but it's not like it's not an Excel video. It's a how to solve this problem video. We're just using Excel as the calculator. That is so helpful for students, and they often don't even see that. So if you've been using Connect and you didn't realize that there were these videos there, your students don't realize it either. They ignore the hint unless I point it out and say, hey, there's a video there. So I actually look for questions that have videos in them, and you can sort for that when you're assigning problems. And so I thought that I would show how you do that. How you set up an assignment super quickly. But let me go ahead and get out of this. Okay. So again, clicking the Add Assignment button is how you assign things. And I'm going to go to the question bank and go to, because we were just there, Chapter 8. And Chapter 8 gives me the choice of problems. These are end of the chapter problems or additional ones that might have been created that are both static and algorithmic. And then some chapters you'll see have additional problems algo, meaning that in the recent edition of the book and when it moved to Smartbook Connect 2.0, more algorithmic problems were added for this textbook. So there are additional options for you to assign, and I am making full use of those. And then you have a test bank access. So let's go ahead and take a look at the static and algorithmic list. So these are all going to be what's called worksheet questions, fill in the blank and multiple fill in the blank. And there might be some drop downs or whatever included, but it's multiple answers within the question. And I can look here at the bottom on the left where it says video, and I want to choose by guided example video. So that drops me down to 12 problems. And then I can just go through and, I can just look at the problems. I can also sort by learning objectives. So you can see that in this particular chapter, only learning objective 8-7 has problems, worksheet problems associated with it and videos, but actually in this particular chapter, that's the only learning objective that was quantitative in the chapter anyway. So that's the reason. And you can also sort by, does the problem have an Excel file attached to it, so that students are able to download the data from the problem into Excel. You can sort by difficulty, or you can sort by Bloom's taxonomy. So if you want to, some of the faculty I know will do 2 assignments from a chapter. The first one they might do as do this before class, and they'll do beginner kind of questions, easy stuff. And then they'll have an assignment after class, or they'll have an assignment that they work through in class, in a flipped classroom with the easier questions, and then assign the harder ones to be due after they've covered it in class. So it's nice to be able to see which ones are going to let me apply and which ones are evaluate, for example, because evaluate's going to be tougher. And then in terms of accessibility, you can also sort by that. So since all of these have videos, let's just go ahead and look at 8-2 algo. And this one is looking at profit, profit based on costs. So kind of a break-even analysis. And down at the bottom, I'll be able to see that there's a hint for how to work through this problem. And then
these are automatically graded.
Yes.
Whether a student is doing a different algorithmic question or not. So you don't have to think about that.
Exactly.
And is that helpful in terms of timing? I mean, that's kind of a silly question, right?
Oh, well, there are people who have resisted moving to an online platform, and partly it's because they perceive that they will lose touch with how their students are doing if the platform grades it for them. But I will tell you, I like to get students work. That you only lose touch to the extent you choose to, because we have such rich analytics inside Connect. You can see at a learning objective level how the class did. You can see at a question level how the class did. You can see at a Bloom's taxonomy level how the class did. There's more analytics there than I'll ever have time to use. And giving students the ability to not only see what they got wrong, but to see the explanation as soon as they submit the homework assignment is so powerful. What I used to do is I would have students upload an Excel file or a Word file, and they had to show their work, and then I would grade it, and I would give them detailed feedback, and I would do my utmost to get that back within 3 to 7 days. And I always have large classes, not large by some university standards, but I would always have 45 to 60 students in a section. And I'm teaching at small schools that don't generally have TA support. So it's me doing the grading, and I'm a lecturer, so I have 4 classes. So it was just not supportable. And students didn't care a week later that if I was telling them, you forgot to take the square root of this. They didn't care. And then they made the same mistake on the test. Boy, this is really my soapbox. The importance of feedback has increased my exam scores significantly when they cared right then. I can't believe I didn't get full credit. I know that. Why didn't I get full credit? Right then, they see what went wrong and how to do it. So I also give multiple attempts to make this more of a formative, so that they're able to see the explanation, do it again, get different numbers, but the same problem, and work through it and reassure themselves that they do understand how to solve the problem. I also set it up to allow practice attempts that are ungraded after the due date, again, because they can get different numbers each time. And just, in supply chain, many of our models are multiple step models, and it just takes practice to feel comfortable with do it this way, then this step, then this step, then this step. So I can add the questions individually or to a pool. And then once I'm done, of course, you need to name the assignment, chapter 3.
So it sounds like it's made your life easier.
Much easier. And choose how many, in a nutshell, choose how many points you want to assign. And then this is another wonderful, wonderful part of this platform is the wealth of choices I have, sometimes overwhelmingly many choices for how to set up the assignment, what kind of settings. so much is within our control. I can choose to make this practice. I can choose to make this homework, quiz, or exam. And under homework, if I click expand advanced settings, you can see that I'm able to set all kinds of things, and I can click edit all settings and then just go through the tabs and say, do I want there to be a time limit? Do I want to scramble the questions? So if I had, the whole interleaved practice idea, if I was assigning for all of chapter 3 and I didn't want them to just say, okay, now we're going to do moving average. Now we're going to do weighted moving average now. And I just want them to figure out what we're covering from the context of the question. I could scramble them. Number of attempts, I can set it to 1, 2, 3, or unlimited. I can require them to start over, which I do because I don't want them to revise their previous attempt. I want new numbers every time. Allow for study attempts is where they can use it for practice after the due date. What resources do I allow them to use? I allow them to check their work once per question. And that's so powerful. That has really cut down on emails from students saying that this doesn't look like anything they ever saw before, and that's my fault, because they can check their work. So, they're motivated to figure out what they did wrong when they can see before they submit it what they did wrong. And then how you look at the plethora of options you have for letting them see feedback after they submit an attempt, all the way from no feedback to scores only to detailed feedback with solutions after each submission or after the due date. I don't know. I'm just a data hound. I mean, I teach business analytics in addition to teaching supply chain. And so I love, as a student, I would love to be able to see all the data. And as the instructor, I really like to be able to see all the data and then review and assign the assignment. And if you're not yet ready, you can click save and exit. And the assignment will be waiting for you the next time you're ready to go in. And I think I did. Oh, I have to set a due date up here. So we'll just make this due there. What's it going to do now? Oops. Okay. Save and exit. There we go. So now those 2 assignments, you can see it's fairly quick to be able to set up assignments. I was very intimidated the first time through because I felt like I needed to allocate 40 hours to setting up my Connect course, because when you set up your own homework assignments and your own reading assignments, when you're not using a digital platform, it's very time intensive to do that. You're going through and picking page numbers and problems at the end of books and figuring out, am I teaching towards this problem? And it's much faster to set up Connect, at least has been my experience. Okay, so that is, we've looked at Smartbook, we've looked at a homework assignment, the videos that you can make sure that you're choosing if you want to assign problems with you not having to provide all the video support for how to work the problems. Practice operations, I know that you had an earlier session in the day, but you would assign those in the same place by going to add assignment and choosing application-based activity, and then choosing whichever module you wanted to assign. And you can and should play it yourself. Big lesson learned. You can and should play through yourself any simulation you're going to assign. I had to learn that the hard way when students asked me questions that I didn't know what their experience was like. So yeah, that would be my recommendation. So practice module 1 takes about 30 to 45 minutes to play through the first time on your own, but you really understand what students should get out of it when you play it through. And so to do that, you just click on it and click a preview. Again, I felt like there was such an intimidation factor. I put off using Practice OM for 2 semesters because I was so, I don't know if, how hard is this going to be? They're so much more gamer than I ever was that they're the ones giving me tips on how to do things.
That's great.
Okay.
Because I know that was a question that we had for James, was how to implement. Tracy, would you, we're actually over.
Oh no, I'm so sorry.
That's okay. The last 15 minutes was going to be just a, farewell, but I would love it if you could open up OM in the news real quick and just kind of show how it's mapped to the books and where the
Sure.
yeah, and I mean, it is located, you can get to it right within Connect in the instructor resources, but you can also go to www.ominthenews.com. And, you know, Tracy is the editor for the OM in the News, and we have, is there 5 now or 6? 6 faculty?
At the current moment, we have 4 faculty bloggers.
4.
We have had 6.
Yeah.
So there's various faculty bloggers. When you go to ominthenews.com, you know, whether you get to it through the instructor resources in the library or, you know, you can also assign it to your students. The front page is, you know, the most recent newsletters that we've sent out. The all articles is where you can find all the articles in date order. And then let's say that you're using Jacobs and Chase, the core, and you want to find something on forecasting, then you would just come over here and click on forecasting. And it will show you what's the most recent to the least recent article that is tied to forecasting. So this Extreme Flavors came out earlier this week. And so if I click the title, then it opens the full article. And what you can see is that we always include at least one YouTube video. We give you the original sources if you want to click to open those, and we try to always use things that are open source. Then we have discussion questions, and this is so rich because so many of our faculty bloggers, they're using these in their classes also. And their discussion questions are just really good for prompting discussion in a class.
Mm-hmm.
And
Group
open-ended
activities or anything, you know, there's kind of the world is your oyster as far as how you want to use it.
Yes. And then if you want to subscribe, then you would just from any page click the subscribe button to be notified when either posts go up or when the newsletter goes out. So you can make a choice or choose both. And yeah, I think that's, yeah, again, sorry to go over. Boy, I really get excited
No
about
worries
this
at
stuff.
all. It's fine. I, you know, it was just a follow-up, just a thanks everybody for coming kind of thing. So yeah.
Is there anything
No.
else that I need to address, or are we good?
No, I think we're good. If you wouldn't mind, are you still in Connect?
I am in Connect.
Just show quickly the in the library where the instructor resources are and all that.
Absolutely.
Kind of.
Yeah, so from your homepage, go to the library, and then we have over on the left-hand side, instructor resources. And that will take you to a whole heck of a lot of other things. So there's videos and practice ops instructions for you. There's also practice ops instructions for the student manual. The link for OM in the News is over on the left-hand side under course-wide content. Smartbook 2.0 instructions, writing assignment tools. I haven't used those, but those look really interesting. And then the data files, all the data files for the whole book are here. So if you wanted to show a problem in class, you can go grab data files, and it's organized by chapter and by case, which is super helpful to be able to, you know, oh, sorry, somebody is mowing the lawn. So I'll go ahead and mute myself.
No worries. Yeah, so that was fantastic. And I think that, you know, you hit on all of the great resources available for operations management with regard to digital. I mean, we've seen, as I said, a real uptick in digital usage. And I mean, it was even prior to COVID, when the pandemic, when everyone needed to be online. So it's just great because of all the resources. And I know Tracy put together a sort of like a white paper that talked about how her class had improved so much because of using Smartbook. So that was just that's really a great resource that, you know, that we'd be happy to share with any of the attendees. And yeah, I would just like to say, you know, I hope that everyone enjoyed it today and got a lot out of it. I know that we did. There was hopefully a lot of thought leadership with regard to Tracy, the panel, the authors, and we're just continuously trying to make teaching easier, student success, and really, working to build a better community in the operations management area. So, Eric, anything to add?
Nothing more to add. Just a big thank you again to everybody who presented today and participated. Great questions. We know it's a big time investment to be on here, but I know some of you came and went, and we appreciate it.
Yes. Oh, and one last thing. All of these sessions will be recorded. All the chit chat in between will be edited out. So it's a nice little succinct session so that you can rewatch these. And then as soon as you've registered, we will be sending those out shortly. And you can find them also. They'll be available on our digital landing page at McGraw-Hill.com. MHHE.com. Actually, what is the full address? Eric, help.
Yeah, MHHE.com is the best place to go.
Yeah. So with that said, Tracy, thank you as always for a very engaging and informative session. And thank you for sharing all of your tips and tricks and techniques. And, know that our digital faculty consultants are available for any kind of help with regard to, building a course or, ideas that you have for online learning. So anything that we can do to help, feel free to reach out, and we are there for you. So with that said, I'm signing off at 3 minutes before 5. I hope everybody has a fantastic weekend, and thank you for coming.